Yo, what up? This is Jasiel. We're back with another video, and I'm pretty excited today because in this video, you're gonna learn how I paint marijuana, that loud, chiba, that gas, that za, ganja, you know, all the names with which you have the plant for, however you want to call it. You're gonna learn how to paint it today. I'm gonna teach you how to paint marijuana. You're gonna learn about the colors I choose, the general shape that I go for when I'm painting the plant, anatomy of the plant. It's really important. There is a gestural pattern that I use. We're gonna go over those. Leaf shape. It's not the same way that you would think of it. Where to put shadows, midtones, and not highlights really, but maybe if you put a little bit of highlights, we focus more on the shadows and the midtones, and the use of photography and cropping. Let's get into it right now. Oh dang. First things first with the color, I have a video where I already talked about the colors that I use, and I'm just gonna run that through real quick to switch it up. Chromium oxide green. We're just gonna go down the greens that I use. Teal, metallic phthalo green, metallic cobalt blue, green gold. This is a fluid acrylic, but maybe it exists in heavy body. Light green, yellow shade. Ultramarine blue. I love ultramarine blue. I just do. It's so cool. Turquoise, aka phthalo. So for the yellows, I have mystery yellow. I'll just show it to you so you can at least, see it clearly. Cadmium yellow medium, cadmium yellow deep hue. So for my shadows, blues and greens primarily are mixing in with the shadows. The blues are primarily there for further depth with the shadows. They're adding a cooling effect, and I typically don't want to do any type of super warming, but if I do need to warm up the shadows, that comes from greens that I chose for the shadows. Chromium oxide green and phthalocyanine green, yellow shade, those provide warm shadows for me. So those colors are pretty much what helps me out when it comes to putting together those values. So a lot of times I'll go and do a gestural little scribble, and the scribble actually has a bit of structure to it. So let's get into a bit of the anatomy of the plant. So there's a part of the plant called the calyx. We know it as the buds. So you paint the buds a certain type of way. If you notice, if you get real zoomed in on this, it kind of looks like a pea, a little bit like a pea in a pod, kind of sort of. So generally, you can create these shapes that are like this and this and this, right? And if you know how to draw like curved lines, you can then do curved lines and then curve into that and then cut in and cut back out and cut back in, and you keep going in and out, in and out. But that's just for the detail part of it. They have to make up a shape. So then now let's talk about the shape. Generally the part that we care about if you do partake is the buds. So a lot of times my paintings will be focused on buds and the leaves. I'm not an expert when it comes to the anatomy of the plant. Go research another video for that. We're just using a little bit of the knowledge to create a believable image. So the gesture that I create with those lines equal this more or less cone shape or cylinder shape that creates a cone that's at the top. It isn't exactly right, but if you look up a lot of like photography, there's this Instagram account that I recently followed. Shout out to my man's Dean who told me about this. And they have some really great photos for you to reference. And they do show bits of that. Now, my paintings, they're more surrealistic than fanciful when it comes to the subject matter. It's not really anatomically correct, I would say. But you get the general concept. So you see how the leaves were sticking out on the sides of that top cone? That's typically how I painted. So I would draw a gestural line for the leaves poking out, just like a curved line, almost like an S, going out to the side in various sizes and lengths or whatnot. So after you have all those lines in there, those gestural lines, then you start thinking about lighting, shadows. So where's the light coming from? Right, for instance, right now, the light's coming here. So a lot of shadows are maybe like under my neck and stuff like that. So generally your shapes are similar to circles. So if you've ever done a value study, you know that the shadows at the bottom, generally you do it that way. Wherever the light is coming from, the opposite side of that, you go with the darkest green that you have. In my case, that would be this green. So you just do that, fill those in After that, you go back and forth because paint got to dry. I don't know if you're using oil or acrylic. I'm using acrylic paint. And think about your drying times or whatnot. But if you're working digitally, obviously you don't have to worry about drying times. So put in those colors, go with the shadows, go with your midtones, focus on those two first, and then you add your highlights at the absolute end. Try to hold off on the highlights for as long as possible. That's a little pro tip. The stigma or the pistils, the little hairs that we all like to feel, oh, orange hairs, green hairs, blue hairs, all the hairs. You would need to, I just use one color. Typically a lot of them are orange. So, that you can take a fine brush with. If you want to go further and like put like all of them in white first and then cover them with another color, because sometimes if you're using real paint, that color, that pigment might be a bit weak and you might have to go through multiple layers. So at times, sometimes I put in like a combination of colors, or like I'll gesture in the orange while I'm building shapes, so I have something that's a little bit more like a layer sitting behind it or something like that. So yeah, I'll go through the process where that kind of works out that way. Trichromes I don't really paint unless I'm focusing on it. At least for right now, I haven't figured out a process with it, because to me, I haven't just figured out. But essentially, I have a painting specifically where I tried to just focus on trichromes, and I will do it again because it was the only painting I ever did that, and first iteration ever worked it out. So be on the lookout for another painting where I just focus on trichromes. Should be awesome. So general painting tips apply. Gesture, pick your colors, wherever shadows, lighting, and general shapes, right? One thing to point out about the leaves going out to the sides of the shape is that the way you want to draw the edges of that leaf, you want to do these little bumps all the way up to the edge, and then the edge becomes a point, and even that point sometimes is curved a little fat up to the tip. So a lot of times you're drawing that from the side in some sort of perspective, but just keep that in mind. You have to kind of figure out how that works out for you. Practice, look at pictures, but I'm giving you the general shapes so that you can have a way to approach it, so you can get at least closest to it without you having to get too frustrated. Go back through those tips. I'll go over them with you, and make sure that you give yourself, some grace. Do it a couple times. Do some sketches ahead of time. So general cropping in photography is very good because, one, if you got the plant, you can take pictures of it yourself. You can also look up photography. Remember, I gave you that Instagram account to check out. They do great photos. I'll give you another one. Here's another one. They do great photos, and you can use them as reference for your paintings. If you want to try painting it, why not? Now, if you want to just paint the leaf, to me, that's too easy. And if you do want to learn how to paint the leaf, I can show you how to do it. I just feel like it's subject matter. I don't know, dude. In the photos, you want to look at colors, obviously, and you can look at light sources. So where's the light coming from? Is it good lighting? Do you like the photo? So on and so forth. If you like a lot of things about the photo, start analyzing it using the principles I gave you or the tips I gave you today. And that way you can double down on your knowledge. Cropping allows for you to create focus points, get rid of excess stuff. The rule of thirds, that'll help you out a lot when it comes to cropping. And like with my trichromes painting, I thought of a very cropped macro photo of the buds, the calyxes, so you can see the trichromes. So I painted with that in mind. I think I did look up some pictures of trichromes and I used those as reference. And so exactly what I told you to do is what I did with that painting. And I hope you, one, check out the paintings that I did. I got like 3 videos of paintings. They're doing some good numbers right now. So I thought I'd show some people how to actually paint the plant. I saw a couple people asking about ways in which you can do that. So I think it's really just up to those things that I talked about. Get to painting and tag me when you post your painting at GYASIO on the Instagrams, Mr. GYASIO on the Twitters, and GYASIO everywhere. So this is Josio, inviting you to live a healthy, happy, and aesthetically rich lifestyle with a little bit of money in your pocket, or a lot of money in your pocket, however you want to do it. Make sure you subscribe if you like what you heard or you saw today. Make sure you like the video if you feel like you learned something or you feel like it was entertaining. However, whatever. If the video floated your boat in any type of way, drop a like, dog. Thanks for stopping by. Drop a like. Comment below something that I didn't go over that you wanted me to go over. Let me know in the comments below if this was helpful at all, if you learned something, if you feel like you have a good approach to try this out, if you're actually going to try this out, whatever. Drop your socials if you want me to check out your work. If you feel like you tried something and you want me to talk about it, we can go over it. Otherwise, I hope you're having a great day. Peace.